Before we crack open tonight's cursed can of content, I just want to say a big thank you to all our subscribers, and an extra sinister shout out to the loyal members of the Sinister Elite. You legends help keep the darkness alive. If you're enjoying the stories and want to take it a step further, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and consider joining the Sinister Elite by clicking that join button below. Members get access to creepy custom emojis and exclusive Sinister Elite badges that level up the longer you survive with us. It's like loyalty, but spookier. All right, lights off, headphones in, and let's summon something we'll all regret. Most people come to Vail for the snow, the parties, and the overpriced hot cocoa. I come for the mop. Name's Donnie, night janitor, resort side. It's one of those old ski lodges that's been renovated so many times the ghost probably filed a complaint with the HOA. They call it Frosthaven Lodge, but the locals whisper a different name, the Frozen Choir. Apparently back in the 50s, an avalanche buried a bunch of guests in the original structure. Every thaw, they say, the lodge sings. I don't know about that. I mostly hear the radiator clanking, my brain buzzing from the cheap pre-roll I smoke in the parking lot before every shift. Helps me vibe, you know? But sometimes that buzz turns into something else, like tonight. It started with the drip. Plink, plink, plink. Meltwater dripping off boots, snowboards, helmets. Everything stacked in the drying room. I pushed Moptimus Prime through the puddles like a soldier with his weapon, the mop sloshing steady. He's my partner, my boy. Titanium handle, double microfiber head, smells faintly of pine sol and destiny. The puddles stretched longer tonight, leading toward the hallway by the old lodge doors. The ones they keep chained shut because that wing's unsafe. But here's the thing. I didn't mop near them. I never mop near them. Rule number 1, man. And yet, the puddles led there on their own, like melted footprints. Around 2 a.m., I started hearing it. Crunch, 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 like someone walking on snow, inside. The floors were bone dry by then, except for the ones near the old doors. Rule number 2. If you hear snow crunching inside, you're not alone. Don't look. I tried not to look. I really did. But curiosity kills, especially when your brain's swimming in indica. I turned slow as molasses and saw them. Wet boot prints steaming faintly, walking toward me down the empty hall. "Moptimus, you seeing this, buddy?" I whispered, gripping the mop. The metal shaft vibrated slightly. I swear on my life the damn thing hummed. The prints stopped 10 feet away. Then one by one, they started freezing over. Ice crystals spread across the tiles, crawling toward me like frost on glass. I stumbled backward, slipped on a thin layer of ice, and hit the floor hard. The sound that came next wasn't human. A long, hollow sigh, like a blizzard exhaling through the walls. Then the air turned white. The blizzard sounds swirled around me, and through the fog, I saw them. Dozens of shapes, translucent, hunched, wrapped in torn ski jackets and frozen scarves. Their mouths moved like they were singing, but all I heard was wind. They surrounded me, circling slow. Moptimus vibrated in my grip, and suddenly his mop head started glowing, faint blue like the northern lights. The spirits hissed and backed off. That's when I realized it. Moptimus wasn't just a mop, he was a weapon. I swung him like a halberd, smacking through one of the phantoms. The ghost exploded into a burst of snowflakes, dissolving into the floor. "Holy shit," I muttered, eyes wide. "You're like a Jedi mop, dude." But for every ghost I swung at, more appeared. They crawled out from under the ski lockers, through the walls, through the vents. I stumbled backward until I hit the double doors of the old lodge, and the chains that kept them sealed snapped. Cold, black air poured through. Behind the doors was an older part of the building. Wood floors warped, wallpaper flaking, chandeliers heavy with icicles. The ghosts didn't follow me in. That was somehow worse. Moptimus's light dimmed like even he didn't want to be here. The deeper I went, the colder it got. Frost crawled up the walls, and in the distance I heard muffled cries, like people buried alive. There was a plaque on the wall, half covered in ice. In memory of those lost, 1954 avalanche. May they rest in peace beneath the Frosthaven. Only, they weren't resting. The ice beneath my boots cracked. I looked down. Faces stared back up from under the floorboards, their mouths opening in silent screams. I ran, dude. But the hallway stretched longer, each door slamming shut as I passed. The final one at the end was glowing faint blue, same light as Moptimus. When I reached it, I pushed through and stumbled into the resort lobby again. Everything looked normal. The lights were on, the puddles were gone, but the air smelled like snow. I thought it was over. I even laughed, nervous, leaning on Moptimus like a drunk at last call. But then I saw it. Snow. Falling inside the lobby. Tiny flakes glittering, melting instantly on the tile. Then, slowly, the puddles began to spread again. Rule number 3. Keep the floors dry. Wet floors wake the dead. I started mopping like a madman, heart racing. Each sweep of Moptimus sent steam rising from the tiles. The snow kept falling harder, the sound of howling wind filling the lodge again. Then I saw their reflection in the glass, the frozen choir, standing behind me, mouths wide open. Moptimus flared bright, glowing like molten silver. He pulled me forward, I swear, guiding the mop across the floor faster than humanly possible, sealing the puddles, drying the ground, pushing the cold back toward the old lodge doors. When the last puddle vanished, the ghost let out one final awful wail and shattered like glass. Silence. Just my own breath and the faint smell of lemon cleaner. I slumped against the counter, laughing and crying at the same time. "You did good, Moptimus," I whispered. "You saved our ass again." The mop leaned still, steam fading. On the wall, the rules glowed faintly, as if someone had rewritten them in frost. Never mop near the old lodge doors after midnight. If you hear snow crunching inside, you're not alone. Don't look. Keep the floors dry. Wet floors wake the dead. Thank the mop. I blinked. That 4th rule wasn't there before, but I still said it. Thanks, buddy. Outside, the wind howled across the mountains. But inside Frosthaven, the spirit stayed frozen. For now. You ever hear snow move when it shouldn't? Like it's breathing? That's what snapped me out of my stoned little groove that night. The clock in the lobby read 2:13 a.m. My earbuds were blasting old Sublime tracks while I mopped puddles near the boot racks, humming like an idiot. Then I felt it. The faintest tremor in the floor, like someone was walking behind me. Heavy boots crunching in snow. Thing is, there wasn't any snow. Not inside. Rule number 2 popped into my head clear as day. If you hear snow crunching inside, you're not alone. Don't look. But curiosity's a bitch, especially when you're half-baked and holding a mop that glows like divine hardware. I looked anyway. There, by the old lodge doors. 2 perfect wet boot prints steaming like they'd just come off the mountain. The kind of prints that melt a second after you see them. Only these didn't. They started walking, one after another, toward me. Each step left a faint frost halo around it, like the cold was leaking through. My stomach twisted. "All right, Moptimus," I whispered, gripping his handle. "Let's not freak out. It's probably, condensation ghosts. That's a thing, right?" Moptimus hummed in my hands, like an electric current ran through the metal shaft. His mop head shimmered faintly blue. That's when I realized something. He wasn't just reacting. He was warning me. The boot prints stopped 10 feet away. The air got still. Then, slow as syrup, the temperature dropped. I could see my breath, and that's when the sound started. Whoa! It was wind, but inside. It rolled down the hallway, bouncing off the walls like 1,000 whispering throats. My ears popped. The lights flickered. Then, from the ceiling above me, snowflakes began to fall. Tiny ones, perfectly formed. They melted when they hit the floor, leaving behind a thin line of frost that slithered toward my boots. I backed up fast, slipping on my own freshly mopped floor like a clown on black ice. The world tilted and I hit the ground hard. My head spun, and when I blinked, I saw shapes. Shadows that weren't mine, standing just beyond the puddles. They looked like people, or what was left of them. Ski jackets shredded, goggles cracked, faces pale blue. Steam poured off their shoulders like they'd been pulled straight from a freezer. Their mouths moved, but I didn't hear voices. I heard the mountain, a deep, echoing rumble like an avalanche trying to crawl back uphill. Moptimus buzzed violently in my hand. I swear he was alive, vibrating with this low, angry energy. Then his mop head started glowing brighter, blue, like glacier ice. I swung him through the air on instinct, and the glow flared, bright enough to cut through the mist. The ghosts hissed, backing away. One of them, the tallest, reached out, frost forming around his outstretched hand. He touched the floor, and instantly the water I'd missed began to freeze solid. That's when I understood rule number 3. Keep the floors dry. Wet floors wake the dead. I scrambled up, slipping again as the ice spread across the tiles. I started mopping like a lunatic, heart thudding so hard I thought I'd puke. Moptimus glowed white-hot with every pass, melting the frost, sealing the water, turning it to harmless steam. The ghosts howled. The tallest one stepped forward, eyes like shattered glass. His voice cracked through the air. "You shouldn't have looked, Donnie. That froze me harder than the floor did. I never told anyone my name tonight. Nobody should have known." Then the emergency lights flickered on, casting the hall in deep red. The ghosts recoiled, retreating into the shadows toward the chained doors. The metal links rattled once, then fell silent. When the lights steadied, I was alone again. Just me, Moptimus Prime, and the faint smell of ozone and pine cleaner. I leaned against the wall, panting. "Bro," I whispered. "This weed ain't worth it." Moptimus glowed faintly in response, like he agreed. That's when I noticed it. A faint trail of snowmelt footprints leading into the old, sealed-off wing of the resort. The chains were still there, but one of the locks was broken. Clean snapped. I tightened my grip on Moptimus and looked toward the darkness beyond the door. Somewhere deep in there, something whispered my name again. The mountain wasn't done with me. You ever notice how darkness feels heavier in the cold? Like it presses on you instead of surrounding you. That's how it felt standing there, staring at those busted chains. The padlock lay snapped in half on the floor, edges rimmed with frost. The old wooden doors hung slightly ajar, just enough for a thin draft of icy wind to snake through. It carried a smell, wet pine, rust, and something else I couldn't place. Something buried. Moptimus glowed dim blue, like he knew we were crossing a line. "Yeah, buddy," I muttered. "I know the rules." But rule number 1's already shot to hell. Never mop near the old lodge doors after midnight. Midnight had passed 2 hours ago. I was already in violation. So screw it. In for a penny. In for a haunting. I nudged the doors open with my mop handle. The hinges shrieked like they hadn't moved in 50 years. Cold mist poured out, curling around my boots like it had been waiting. Beyond the threshold was the original Frosthaven Lodge, the one buried in the avalanche back in 1954. The hallway stretched out ahead, built from old timber beams and cracked tile. Snow crusted over the walls in veins of white. The air glittered faintly, filled with ice dust. My breath fogged thick and slow. Somewhere deeper inside, I heard something. Drip, drip, drip. It wasn't water. It was thicker, slower. I walked, one hand gripping Moptimus, the other holding my little LED flashlight. It flickered constantly, throwing shadows that looked like people swaying on skis. My boots crunched in thin layers of ice that formed right under me as I stepped. And then I found the first picture frame. It was hanging crooked on the wall. A black and white photo of ski resort staff. Smiling faces, clean uniforms, proud as hell. But one detail hit me like a brick. One of the janitors in the photo was holding my mop. Same metal handle, same twin fiber head, even the same little engraved plate on the shaft that read MP1. Moptimus Prime, Mark 1. "Dude," I whispered. "You've been here before?" Moptimus pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. The air got colder. The ice along the walls began to melt. That's when the singing started. At first I thought it was the wind again, but no. It was voices. Soft, human, out of tune but hauntingly beautiful. A frozen choir humming some old ski lodge hymn. It came from below me, through the floorboards. I knelt, brushing frost away, revealing glass under my feet. Thick panes set in the floor like observation panels. And beneath the glass were faces. Pale, open-mouthed, eyes wide in horror. Dozens of them, preserved perfectly in ice. The avalanche victims. Their hands pressed against the glass like they were trying to claw their way up. I stumbled back so hard I cracked into the wall. My flashlight rolled away, spinning wild. The faces in the ice turned toward me. Every last one of them moved in perfect unison. Their lips opened, and I heard my name. "Donnie!" I screamed. Can't even lie. And raised Moptimus high. The mop burst to life, its glow blinding. Steam shot from the floor as the light cut through the frost like a blade. The faces retreated, their screams muffled by the ice. When the light dimmed and the singing stopped, the glass floor was fogged over solid again. I gasped, heart pounding, when I noticed something new. Writing scratched into the frost on the wall. It hadn't been there before. "Dry the floors. Keep us sleeping." Rule number 3 again. Only this time it was written from the inside. I glanced around. Water had begun pooling near my boots, melting from the walls. The ghost's prison was thawing. Moptimus's glow shifted from blue to white hot. I knew what to do. "Hang tight, little buddy," I muttered, wringing him out. "We're putting these suckers back on ice." I swung him across the floor, steam blasting upward with every stroke. Frost reformed in elegant spiderwebs, sealing the cracks. The puddles dried in seconds. For a moment, the lodge went perfectly still. Then something knocked from under the floor. Once, twice, then again, louder. And from down the hall, a door slowly creaked open by itself. Inside, a dim blue light glowed, and hanging from the ceiling beam was another mop, older, worn, its head frozen solid, ice crystals dripping like fangs. A nameplate dangled from it. MP0. Moptimus pulsed in my hand, almost shaking, like he recognized his ancestor. Then from the shadows behind it, a tall figure stepped forward, skeletal, dripping frost, wearing a janitor's coat frozen stiff. He had no eyes, just hollow sockets glowing faint blue, and in one hand, he carried a mop of his own. The ghost rasped, "You broke the seal." My breath turned to fog. Yeah, man, sorry about that. Union didn't really cover ghost janitor overtime." He tilted his head. "You've taken my weapon." Moptimus pulsed again, a deep, furious blue. I swear I felt him grow heavier, like he was preparing to fight. The air between us turned sharp as glass. The frozen janitor stepped closer, ice cracking with every move. "If you wish to survive, keep the floors dry." Then his face split open, and the singing began again. Only this time, it wasn't from beneath the floor. It was all around me. The frozen janitor moved like the cold itself, slow, deliberate, patient. Each step forward cracked the tiles beneath him, frost spiderwebbing out with a hiss. His hollow sockets burned blue. His voice, if you could even call it that, sounded like wind scraping over ice. "You woke the choir," he rasped. "They were sleeping." "I didn't mean to," I stammered, backing away. "The chains were broken when I got here." Lie. I broke them. I was baked and curious and stupid. Rule number 1 echoing in my skull like a guilt trip. Never mop near the old lodge doors after midnight. Too late for that. The ghost's grip tightened on his frozen mop, MP0, carved right into the handle. His jaw cracked open wider, the sound like shattering icicles. From the darkness behind him, the whispering choir started again, low and rhythmic. Moptimus Prime pulsed hot in my hands, glowing brighter with every note of the ghostly song. He was shaking, like he recognized his maker, or his enemy. "You wield my successor," the ghost hissed. "The lodge chose you." "I didn't apply, bro," I muttered. "I just clean puke off carpets." He raised his weapon and the temperature plummeted. My breath froze mid-air, hanging like crystal dust. The puddles on the floor began to ripple, expanding. The ghosts below the ice, those faces I'd seen earlier, were stirring again. The walls trembled. The air filled with a sound like wind screaming through pine needles. Moptimus blazed white. His mop head flared like burning magnesium. I tightened my grip. "All right, Prime," I said, teeth chattering. "Let's go full Swiffer of Destiny on this freak." The first swing cracked the air like a thunderclap. Moptimus met the frozen mop mid-arc. Sparks. No. Snowflakes of light, exploding between us. The shockwave sent frost flying across the walls. We clashed again, and again. Each hit sounded like an avalanche detonating. The ghost janitor didn't bleed. He shed shards of ice that screamed when they hit the ground. "Why do you fight me?" he growled. "The dead must stay frozen." "Yeah, and I'm trying to keep it that way," I yelled back, swinging hard. "You're the one melting shit." He lunged, impaling his mop through the floor. Cracks spidered outward in a perfect circle. Ice erupted upward like a geyser, blasting me off my feet. I crashed into a snow-dusted wall, gasping for breath. Moptimus slid across the floor, landing beside me. I reached for him, but the puddles around my hands were melting again. The faces beneath the ice pressed closer, whispering my name. "Donnie! Let us out!" I almost listened. There was this hypnotic rhythm to their voices, like a lullaby sung through water. My eyelids got heavy. I started leaning forward. Then Moptimus's light hit me in the face. Blinding, searing, pure. He vibrated violently, snapping me out of it. "Yeah," I breathed. Okay. I'm awake, bud. Sorry." The ghost janitor swung again, but this time Moptimus blocked him mid-air and, I swear to God, he roared. It wasn't words, it was vibration. Like the floor itself growled through my arms. Blue light erupted from Moptimus's mop head, slamming into the ghost. The spirit staggered back, howling as frost peeled from his body in strips of glowing mist. "You don't know what you carry," he screamed. "It was forged in the ice that buried us." Then he lunged one last time, driving MP0 into Moptimus's chest. The lights collided, blue and white, old and new. The entire hallway exploded in a blinding flash. When my vision cleared, I was alone. Just me, my mop, and a brand new scar carved into the tile, shaped like a snowflake the size of a truck. The old mop lay shattered, its handle split down the middle. The ghost janitor was gone, but his voice lingered in the air like frostbite. "Keep the floors dry, Donnie, or they'll all wake again." I slumped against the wall, shaking. Moptimus's glow dimmed back to a soft blue, humming like a heartbeat slowing down. "You did good, Prime," I muttered. "You saved us." Steam rolled off the tiles as the temperature began to rise again. The air smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and burnt ozone. Then, from the floor below, I heard something new. A faint crack, followed by another. Then another. The ice beneath the glass walkway was fracturing. The faces were moving again, mouths opening, eyes rolling upward. Whatever that battle released, it wasn't over. The ghosts weren't staying down. Moptimus pulsed faintly in my grip, like he was bracing for round 2. "Ah, hell," I groaned. "We ain't clocking out yet, are we?" When the first crack split through the glass floor, it sounded like thunder rolling through ice. Then came the second, then the third, and suddenly the entire hallway was alive. glowing veins of frost running wild, light surging beneath my boots like lightning trapped under the surface. Every face I'd seen in that ice, the one staring up at me before, they were moving, twisting, screaming. Their hands beat against the glass from below until it began to splinter like sugar. Moptimus hummed low in my hand, a warning. "Yeah," I breathed, backing up. "I see him, buddy." Looks like graveyard shift just got real literal. Then the floor exploded. Sheets of ice shot up like blades, and from below came dozens, maybe hundreds, of frozen souls. The frozen choir, ski jackets frozen stiff, faces blue and split, eyes hollow and shining. They moved like marionettes, jerking to some unheard rhythm. Their mouths opened in unison, and the same low, breathless hymn filled the air. The sound crawled under my skin. My ears popped. The chandeliers above started to sway, shedding icicles like rain. I clutched Moptimus tight. "Rule number 3, I gasped. "Keep the floors dry. Wet floors wake the dead." Well, too damn late for that now. The ghosts surged forward, their hands dragging streaks of frost across the tile. The air itself turned thick, freezing the sweat on my skin. Moptimus's glow flared from blue to white hot again, the light cutting through the blizzard swirling around us. "All right, Prime," I said through clenched teeth. "Let's mop this mess." The first ghost lunged, and I swung. Moptimus hit it square across the chest, the sound like shattering glass. The spirit disintegrated in a burst of snow, but more poured in behind it, crawling over the walls, the ceiling, even the chandelier. The hymn grew louder. A wall of sound. It wasn't singing anymore. It was screaming. I moved fast, sweeping Moptimus across the floor in huge arcs, drying water, sealing cracks, forcing steam through the gaps in the tile. Every time the mop touched ground, the glow intensified, spreading like a holy burn across the ice. The ghosts recoiled, howling as the steam hit them, but they kept coming. A voice rose above the rest, deep and cold and familiar. "You broke the seal, Donnie." It was the ghost janitor, the original one, reappearing through a wall of frost. His body was cracked now, half transparent, his mop reduced to shards of frozen wood. "You can't stop the thaw," he said. "The mountain remembers." "I don't give a damn what it remembers," I shouted. "This resort ain't big enough for both of us, Pops." He lunged, spectral hands outstretched. I swung Moptimus one final time, a wide, desperate arc, and his head exploded with light. The entire hallway went white. When the brightness faded, everything was still. No ghosts, no wind, just soft snow drifting through the air, melting before it touched the ground. The glass under my boots had frozen solid again, smooth as a mirror. Beneath it, the faces were still, serene, eyes closed. The frozen choir had been put back to sleep. I exhaled hard, nearly collapsing. Moptimus leaned heavy in my grip, steam rising from his head like a halo. His glow dimmed, then pulsed once, a quiet heartbeat, before fading out entirely. The old ghost janitor's voice whispered faintly, carried by the wind. "Keep the floors dry, Donnie, and thank the mop." By sunrise, the resort was peaceful again. The heating systems hummed, the lights steady. Fresh snow fell outside, soft and innocent, like it hadn't buried 100 souls beneath it decades ago. I stood at the front desk, sipping stale coffee, staring at the frost creeping faintly along the window edges. Behind me on the wall, the rules had reappeared, this time etched perfectly in ice. Never mop near the old lodge doors after midnight. If you hear snow crunching inside, you're not alone. Don't look. Keep the floors dry. Wet floors wake the dead. Thank the mop. I turned to Moptimus leaning quietly against the counter, his once shiny head now scorched and blackened from battle. "Thanks, buddy," I said softly. The light on his handle flickered once, just enough to let me know he heard me. When my shift ended, I clocked out and stepped outside. The morning light hit the mountains, turning the snow into gold. For a second, it almost looked peaceful again. But as I walked to my car, I glanced back at the lodge. The old doors, the ones that were sealed shut, they were chained again. Only this time, carved into the ice above them, were 5 new words that hadn't been there before. The floors are never dry. I stood there for a long minute, breath fogging in the cold. Then I smiled weakly. Guess we're not done, huh? Moptimus pulsed faintly on my shoulder as if saying nope. And somewhere deep in the mountain, the faint sound of snow crunching echoed again.